Listening. I admire people who can listen so much. It's not just about active listening, paying attention to what the other person's saying, trying to understand what they're saying, but I admire people who can listen and take action on the knowledge that the other person's trying to give you or the advice that the other person's trying to give you. I struggle a lot with trying to understand which sources of advice, guidance, understanding I should pay attention to, and which ones I can kind of just not ignore, but maybe just take with a grain of salt, we'll say. And maybe we should just take all advice with a grain of salt. The challenge I've faced throughout my life is not just listening to pay attention, but listening and trying to understand and elicit from that person's input what I can take as an actionable request or an actionable piece of advice. And that's where I think listening holds its most value and its truest form of benefit for all of us, is that we don't just listen to understand, we don't just listen to hear someone out, although that's very important and we should definitely be doing these things, but we're listening to try to take the knowledge and help our own lives. And there's two really important instances I've had in my life where this has really shaped my whole future. And I think the first was after I finished my master's degree. And I mentioned in a previous podcast how I'd been applying for hundreds and hundreds of jobs and trying to find that position that would take me to the next step. And during that period of time, a position came up in Norway, in Oslo, Norway, at a research institution. And the position focused on the accessibility of web technologies for people with disabilities and had a strong social, political science component to it. And I looked at it once, and at the time I wasn't really into these things, and so I just kind of blew it off. And then I saw it advertised again. And so I mentioned this to my partner, and I said, hey, what do you think? Is this something I should be bothered applying for? And she immediately said, yes, you should apply for that. That is exactly the kind of thing that you want to do, that you are interested in. And not even realizing that there was a connection between the things in the job posting and my own value systems, I just went ahead and put the application in. Well, a few months later, I was awarded the position. I moved to Norway, and it changed my whole trajectory of my career. It changed my whole life. So listening can really create opportunities for us to advance and to push ourselves into new and uncharted territories. Now, the other opportunity I had to listen to others and take their advice was after my first year of teaching. So at my first class, I was terrified. I had hundreds of students in front of me, and they were all looking to me for their future, their academic knowledge, and all the things that they will gain from university. And I'm sitting there having had 1 week to prepare for this class, and I'm trying to get up the courage to actually not just impress them, but to actually connect with them and to make sure that they're learning what they need to learn in order to take their academic and professional careers forward. Now, there was a young student in the front row listening intently the whole class, and after class she came up to me and she had a list of things for me to take on as input, as feedback, as advice, as guidance. And it was all because at the end of class I said, hey, if anybody has any feedback for me, or if you wanted to give me any advice, I'd love to hear it. And so she came up with this wonderful list. And at first it was really intimidating. It was really scary because here's this student first semester and here's me, a professor, and we're trying to kind of understand our roles. And I asked her, just why don't we go back to my office and then you can tell me everything there. And so when we went back to my office, she kind of took me through step by step and said, well, this is what I like, this is what I think you're doing well, and then here's things that I didn't care for that I think you could improve upon. Now, I could have very easily have just told that student, look, you're just a first semester student, you don't know anything, just go away, leave me alone. Or I could have been offended by her advice and said, oh my gosh, this is terrible, I'm a horrible human being. But instead, I took a minute, checked my ego, and I tried to take that next step beyond just listening and take it into action. And that changed the trajectory of my career forever.